Alright, so let's continue working on our street scene. I'm going to go to File, Set Project. Make sure you copy your preferences, you know, that whole jazz. 2520, work, street corner, set, open. And I'm going to grab my latest one, which is that one. Nope, I don't want that one. I want the other one. I like that one better. Alright, so here's my latest scene, the one that I like. And what I want to do in this is I want to basically just start modeling some of the stuff. Now that we've got a good overview of things, that's not organized very well right now, but I want to start basically laying some things out of where I want to put detail. So these windows here, I know that on these guys, I want to get them in here. I want them to be exactly laid out correctly. I'm going to have a little bit of indent there and actually add some detail extra to that area. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop, and I'm going to go to the option box. Now instead of doing just one at a time like we've done before, what I can do is say multiple edge loops. And I can do, let's say I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here. So I can say 8 edge loops, and I click, and when I let go, I get a division here that's perfect. So now these windows are going to be perfectly lined up with those things. All right, and then I can go back and say relative, and then just drop one here, and then drop one there. Okay, that way I have it lined up. Now for our scene, we also, if you look at all these divisions that we're going to start to get on here, we don't need all this stuff. We're not showing the top of our roof. We're not showing the back of this. So I'm going to go to faces and just get rid of all this. Just delete everything that I know I'm not going to see. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit careful here because I may want to keep that. Okay, but that should be good. No one's going to really notice. Oops. Do the same thing on this side. There we go. No one's going to notice these things missing. There we go. Okay, that's good. And I think what I'm actually going to do is just grab these edges here and just hold down V and just snap it right in alignment. That's good there. Grab these two vertices, hold down V, snap that. Oops. Maybe not snap this one. Maybe just pull it in closer. Alright, there we go. I can pull it over and then snap it in V. That's beautiful. Okay, so we have a nice edge right there. We do the same thing here. We'll grab this point and that point. Hold down V, snap it, grab these 2 points, scoot it over a touch, and then snap it in there. Okay. This way we're kind of keeping everything kind of together. You know, all the stuff that we need is isolated. There we go. And you can see that I accidentally deleted this face, no big deal. So I can always grab these 3 edges and extrude it, and then just go to the move tool and pull it back. And now I'm basically back with where I was, so just snap that. Snap that, good. Okay, so now our building is right there. This big window that's going to be in front, I'm going to want a line for that. So let me go to my insert edge loop, put one there, put one there. This one's, you know, it's kind of rough because it doesn't really matter where the height is. Put one for the top of the door. Bottom of the door is going to be there. All right, so that should be good. I'm going to stretch the door out a little bit. I'm just going to grab these 2 edges here, scoot them over. These 2 edges here, scoot them over. So I'm basically doing all the modeling that I would need to do to this building. I haven't done any texturing yet, just doing the modeling portion. Okay, I'm going to hide these things and just say stand-in geo. Group them, call them building bits, and just turn it off. Okay, so now I can go to this face, this face, this face, and that face. I'm just going to do an extrusion and just push it in. Okay, there I have just a little bit of a dip there of where my windows are going to be. Let me come down here to this guy, and he's going to be right here. That's that big window. Extrude, push it in a bit. There's my door, extrude, push it in a bit. Okay, now on the door I'm actually getting this extra face down here. I'm going to delete that. I don't need that extra face. Okay, so there's my building model. Now if I wanted to do a little bit of damage to the building, I'm going to save my scene as volume 2 or edit 2. Building model VO1. Let me isolate this. So I'm just going to hit this isolate button. That just kind of takes away everything else. And let's say I wanted to add a little bit of like a crack or breakaway or something here. I can go in with my insert edge loops. Let's say I popped in a couple edge loops here. I can go to edit mesh, interactive split. I'm going to turn off my magnet tolerance. Okay, something like that. And then I can grab these faces here and extrude this and just pop that in a little bit. Okay. What I'd actually like to do is not just do that, but maybe give it a little bit of an offset first, and then push it in. And then these faces I would just want to delete, and then adjust the edges that I have here. Okay. Pull this straight down and snap it with V. Grab these guys, hold down V, snap it in this direction. There we go. So now if I have a chip off the building here, that's where I would put that chip off the building. All right, and I'll show you how I can utilize that. All right, so there's our rough building here. Let's hit the isolate select button again to unisolate select. Let's call this building. Let's go to delete history and delete the history on that. Okay, for now I think the building is probably good. I'm going to add some tapers and stuff in there when we get to it, but not right now. Alright, so that's good. Street looks good. I don't think I want to add anything to the street right now. We may add some stuff later on. Let's go to our signs here. The signs are going to be pretty much exactly these planes, but they're going to be extruded. So let me just go to extrude these. There we go. I'll extrude that guy too. Let's label these street sign 1, street sign 2. Here's this pole. Now the poles usually have like a cap on them. You can see how like this one has a fancy one on here. This one's kind of a plain one, but it's got these little brackety things. Alright, so it's always, not always, typically there's something on top of it that's kind of holding it in place. Alright, so I'm going to create something just to hold on top of that. So I'm going to go to polygon cube, hold down V, click up there. And I'm just going to create something kind of organic-y looking. Come on. Just scaling. And I'm going to hold the control key and grab the green and just scale it in just to round that off. I could also put a cylinder up here, but I typically like to start off with a cube. extrude this, scale it down, extrude this up. Okay, I'm going to drop in some bevels. I'll put a bevel here, there, there, there. Okay, so let's drop in some bevels here. Oops, yeah, looks like I forgot a bevel. I did. So we'll go undo. Then we'll go to bevel, 0.2. Because it's so close, I'm going to add an extra division. There we go. So I turn my wireframe off. It just looks, a little bit fancy. I'll pull these guys up a little bit. There we go. And you'll notice on some of these here, there's also like this little cap, and it's like something holding it in there. Let's create that too. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I can actually probably borrow, let me look at that design again. Yeah, I don't even need anything fancy. I'll just create cylinder. Because I'm not doing anything fancy to it, I'm just creating a cylinder like this. And then it has basically, this one's like a T. I don't want the T one because mine's going off one side than the other. So mine's going to be more like this. Okay, so I just basically have like a cylinder and then a little holder here. So cylinder. Little bevel on it. There we go, good. I'll duplicate this, scoot it up here. That's good. And then I can just grab, see where this is hitting right there. Grab this cube. I'm just going to duplicate it, scale it down, scale it out, scoot it over. You see how I just really quickly just created that sign holder. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this setup here, duplicate it, pull it up. I can't just rotate it because you'll see I'll get this funky behavior. So I'm going to group it, and then my pivot's way over here, so I'm going to center pivot, then rotate. And there we go. Oops, so my pivot's a little bit off. You go into wireframe and just move the pivot right to there, then rotate, -90. Scoot this guy over here. Alright, there we go. Beautiful. Alright, so now we have something that looks a little bit more realistic looking, just adding that little bit of detail there. Now what's on the bottom of the street pole? They usually have like something holding it into the ground. It's not just like sticking there. Sometimes it is, but not all the time. Let's go back to our Google Maps. Boston, Massachusetts, maps. Like I said, this is just one of those great things just to be able to go out there instead of looking at endless pictures. Let's drop our guy down here. There's an intersection. And then we can find a street sign. There's one. And you can see here we have just these ones are obviously square, but big deal. They have these plates down there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a plate type of thing. Hey, I have a plate right here. That's already got bevels on and everything. Scale it up. Stick it in the ground. And there it is. Okay. I can add extra detail to this also, just because we're getting kind of close to it. I'll add let me go first and go to faces. I just want to delete all those faces underneath. Okay, so I just went through, marqueed all the faces, sides and the bottom, hold the control key, deselect the sides, and then I can delete those. Then I can go to create a cylinder again. Too tiny. And I'm going to make this, instead of having 20 divisions, let's have it have 6 divisions. And I'm going to delete the bottom face here. I'm going to grab the top face and just extrude it. Extrude it again. Go. And then I can just go into my beveling, 0.2, there we go, and then just scale this guy down. And set him on that surface. Okay, you can see how I'm getting close to my stuff and it's disappearing. I'm going to click on the select camera, Control A, and then change my near clipping plane to 0.01, and there we go. Alright, so we'll scoot that guy down again. Alright, now I'm going to duplicate this around here, so I'm going to go to move the pivot in here, so DV, move the pivot to one of these center points, Control D to duplicate it, rotate this about 60, and then Control D, or Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and now we have these little bolts kind of holding it in place. So it makes it seem like it's a bit more grounded than just leaving it just like it is. So lots of detail right in that first area. As we get further back here, if we had another sign, we wouldn't need to put as much detail in there. Okay. Oops. Let's go back to here. Let's take a look at another sign. All these signs seem to have that. Where's their street lights at? Here's their lamps. You can see their lamps if I zoom. I'm going to go down the street. Go down here to where the lamp is. There we go. You can see how the lamp kind of has a fancier base than the other one does. So here's my lamps. So I'm going to make this a little bit fancier base than the other one had. So I'm going to start off with a cube. Hold down V, move it over. Come on. Nope, I don't have a center point for that one. Do I up here? No. Alright, so I'm just going to try to, I'm going to click the cube, shift click this, modify, snap align objects option box. Midpoints, X, Y, and Z to the last selected object. There we go. So now this is centered. So now I can pull it down. That looks about right. Let's go to vertices. We'll scale these bottom vertices out. We got a little plant area, kind of like this one has. If I lower it a little bit. Go. Something like that. I'm going to go and add some divisions, insert edge loop. Go to faces. Okay, so I click on one, shift, double click the next one, and it grabs all the way around. Going to extrude, offset, oops, okay. 0.01, nope. 0.005. Nudge it in a little bit. Extrude again. Push it in a little bit more. Okay. That gives me a little bit of design on there, so it doesn't look plain. Let's go up here to this face. We'll put a bevel on it. Okay, and then these side ones, I want to add bevel to those too. So I'm just shift double clicking those, add a bevel. There we go. And remember, these hard edges here I can get rid of just by going to normals, soften. Okay. So there you go. So that's kind of something fancy. We could also, you know, do fancier stuff too if we wanted. Let me add another edge loop in here. And grab this face and just extrude the face in. There we go, like that. And extrude again. And then we get this fancy thing. Okay, now if I wanted to duplicate this around here, just so you can see the process of this, if I grab these faces and delete this, and I'm also going to delete all of these little faces here. Okay, I'm just grabbing the whole section, which I think I got. Good. Delete. Go to object mode, click this guy. Okay, I'm going to duplicate him, rotate this 90 degrees, and see how it matches. Shift D, matches. Shift D, matches. Good. So I grab all four pieces, mesh, combine, go to edit mesh and say merge. Okay, you see how my bevels went away. I just have to go into my merge options and just make sure this distance is set to really, really low. And there we go, our bevels are back. Then I can go to this edge and double click and say mesh, fill hole. And now that hole is filled. And now we're back having all four of these, without having to do all four of those, kind of lined up. I think I also want to throw in another division right in the middle here. Like that. And then maybe just kind of bow it out a little bit on all four sides. There we go. Okay, so there's my other block holding this street light in. And then this one is a bit fancier street light. It's got like a splitter here. It's also holding that. It's got some baskets. So it all depends on what kind of street light you're going to be wanting in your scene. Like we talked about, you can have different kinds of street lights all over the place. I'm going to leave the street light where it is for now and move on to something else. I'll come back to the street light. Let's go over to these signs here. And these signs we're actually not going to really touch a whole lot except for just to kind of throw something in there to mount it to the building. Okay. So if we go to some of these signs like this one, you can see how it has this pole and it's hanging off the edge of that. So I'm just going to create something like that. And I'm literally just going to duplicate this thing here. Put it like that. And then this guy will be a little bit shrunk down. Pushed over a little bit. Scaled. Okay, and then see how fancy that is? Not that it's super fancy, but it's a bit fancy. And we'll just go and add some divisions with the insert edge loop. We'll go and extrude some of these things. And I can do something really kind of neat here. I'll go to my front view. There it is. I'm going to go with my curve tool, create curve tool. And I'm just drawing a very basic curve like that. Okay, go back to perspective. I can see my curves here. I'm just going to hold down D and C and middle drag to move the pivot. Hold down V, snap it back here. There it is. So what I'm going to do is grab this face, shift click the curve. Alright, let me hit F8. Grab the curve, shift click the face, opposite order I guess. Go to extrude option box and ensure that this is set to curves selected. Extrude. And what it's doing is it's extruding this face down to here. So if I then take divisions up, you see how I have this kind of shape rounding out. And then I can also go down to where it says taper, and I can taper this just to get kind of like that hook look to it. Okay, without having to model a whole lot of stuff. Alright, so good. Let's leave that. I'm going to create a little sign here, right? So I want to have something holding the sign up. So if I'm doing something kind of old-fashioned, I could create these toruses. And a torus, if you remember, let me isolate this, is just a donut. So I'm going to take these divisions down to 8. There we go. And 10. And let me go to the top view. And I'm just going to go to vertex mode and grab these bottom rows and pull them down. Grab these top rows and pull them up. And I'm going to scale them a little bit too. Looks like it loses a little bit of volume, just kind of what we're doing. And then I'm going to take their section radius down a little bit, 0.25. There we go. So if I hit 3, you see what this looks like is a chain. Well, a chain link. Go back to isolate select. Let's move this up. Scale it down. Move it up. Scale it down. Rotate it. Okay, if I stick half of this in here, that's going to look like, hey, that's the link that's kind of, where this thing would be holding on. And if I line it up good enough, okay, then I can duplicate this, move it down so far, rotate this 90 degrees. Hold down shift, hit D, hold down shift, hit D. Okay. Then maybe duplicate it one more time. Pull this down until it's lined up. And I'll even scoot this down a little bit more. There we go. There we go. So that way it lines up perfectly with where that should be. And I could have even gone a little bit higher. Like that maybe. But I think if you're going to have chain links, you might as well have a few of them there. Okay, so let me just grab this setup, duplicate, scoot it over. So now I have a couple chain links holding that thing on. I'm also going to take this and bevel these. It really needs to have a bevel right about there. It doesn't like the bevel. Okay, most likely because we're going to a point right here. So let me go to the extrude and take the taper to maybe 0.1. There we go. So now we have a little bevel on there. Cool. So now the sign, the reason I'm not going to really go into it is we have basically already made a sign. We made one in the Gillette can. You could also go to CG Textures. And if you look under their stuff here, they have lots of signs. Don't grab any of these with transparency on them unless you're just not going to use the transparency. Okay, danger, whatever. Obviously, that wouldn't be really appropriate for what you're doing. There. And I think they have like Asian signs as well. What categories? Signs neon. So they have some of these Asian signs in here too. That's a section, Asian signs. Oh, there we go. Signs. Airport, backside, Chinese, instructional, graffiti, Korean, letters, neon, text, stripes, posters, traffic signs, various. Okay, so you can do that, find some research, and then build a sign that would go here. Okay, my goal is not to show you every single step of making every single thing inside here, but just to give you some tips along the way of how to create some of these things. Street light. Street signal light. Could just click the image, I guess. Some of the stuff people kind of go overboard on, and you just really don't need to. If you look at the shape of this thing here, we're at a cube, which is what that thing is, right? With some bevels. So let's throw some bevels in here. There we go. So we have that. And then we have the cylinders that are in here. And the cylinders are basically, they're just like sliced neatly. Okay, and let me show you what one of those cylinders would look like. I'm actually not even going to use a cylinder. I'm going to use a cube. Like I said, I'll use cubes for lots of things that would be rounded, just because a cube is a good shape to start with most of the time. So let me grab these, pull it forward. I'm going to insert an edge loop right about there. Insert another edge loop right about there. Delete these faces. Delete the faces on this back area. Okay, so this is what I'm left with, is this kind of shape. Okay, now if I hit 3, you see we're basically at this kind of shape here. It's just a little bit deep. So we can just grab these and kind of pull these things in to where we need them to be. Okay, and that's why I start off with that kind of shape. And you can see even these, they don't really look too, maybe from the front they look more circular, but they kind of look like they're a little bit rectangular. So we just drop this back on here. Obviously scale it up some. Look like I'm centered. I'm not centered. I'm going to have to center that better. All right, so let's pull that out some. There we go. We'll give it a little bit of thickness just by extruding. Let me hit 1 so we can see what this is doing in rough mode. Okay, I'm going to go to edges and just kind of tweak some of these things, because it looks like we're getting kind of like warped right here. There we go. And if I see that I'm getting a little bit too square, I can just insert some edge loops like that, like that. Make sure that they're at 0.5 over here. And then just grab the vertices and just pull this up, pull that down, pull this out, pull that out. Okay, and then when I hit 3 to smooth it, I'm going to become more rounded. I'm going to go to edges, shift click these, shift click this, shift click these. Should be good. Little bevel. Alright. So now when I hit 3, we get a nice shape right there. A little bit of a kink, but I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. Okay. So now let's go and drop in a sphere. A sphere. Shift click this. Modify, snap align, align objects. Everything's already set up. Midpoints, XYZ. Align. So then I can just shrink this down. Rotate it. And then I can see that, yeah, definitely this thing needs to be adjusted. Okay, so let me grab the vertices, pull these in. Let me pull them in the red direction, these in the red direction. Then I can just pull these straight down. And I'm just getting this to fit a little bit better. We're just tweaking these until we get these points lined up. They're light. And then this little area here, that's just a little bit puckery still. Come on. All right, that's good. Maybe another division back here will kind of help that out. Oops. It's not going to want to go because I have this funky bevel type thing here. So I'm going to go to the top view. I'm going to go to Cut Faces tool. I'm just use the Cut Faces. Hold Shift, click and drag, and it's going to just cut right across. Okay, now that actually probably made it worse. And go this way across too. Yeah, I'm just making that worse. Let's just undo that. There we go. Having that less division there is just helping it stay smoother. Alright, there we go. Alright, so let's take this thing in. Let's cut this in half. Perfect cut. Let's shrink it down, push it in. A little bigger. We may have, yeah, that's what we have here. Is this face back here. I'm just going to delete that face. Okay, there's our light. Just be flatter still. There we go. Okay, so I like that. So delete these two. Group those, center pivot it, Control D, scoot it down, Shift D, and then just get these kind of lined up. I'm going to go to the outliner, and here's my three groups. So I'm going to go to Modify, Snap Align, Align Objects, Distribute, just in the Y direction. Now they're evenly distributed. I'm going to go to the front view, and it looks like they're pretty lined up horizontally as well. Okay, there we go, good. Right, so there's my stoplight. Let me go through and start naming some of this stuff, and I'll be right back. Right, I've got this organized a bit better just so my sanity is still intact. Sometimes when I'm just kind of playing around, I just don't organize my stuff very well, and then I come in and want to actually use it. Alright, so here's like my street sign. Everything's nice and organized, so if I wanted to move this thing over, everything's going to kind of go with it. I don't have to worry about, you know, accidentally missing a part. My building sign, same thing. Everything's organized. The history's deleted, that way I can move it around. If the history wasn't deleted, I'd get some weird stuff happening with that hook right there. Alright, so we got this thing that we're working on still. I'm just going to, you know, don't really see where this will be connected, right? So it doesn't matter. Alright, if we look at some of these things, they have these things there. But when they have them on a pole like this, they just have kind of this like base, this cap around it. So if I need to, I can put a cap around it. I just want to get fancier. I think I do want to take this and make it a little bit thinner, just so it's a little fancier. And let me go and grab these. Just push all those against that. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do the little cap around it. I like the way that looks. I think that looks kind of neat. I probably do want this a little bit lower. You can see how low they are here. Well, I think it's not too low. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I do like this little overhang thing, so maybe I'll try to work that some, maybe in here, going across, maybe. Actually be up here. I don't think my camera angle. Yeah, I really wouldn't see it too much from my camera angle. Alright. Let's go to this trash can and do the trash can here. And I'm just jumping to Google just to grab these, just so you can see different images that, you know, we possibly grab and why we'd want to use one over the other. So we can do stuff like this. Sometimes you'll see people use these things and use transparency maps. We're not going to do that. Okay, if we want this, we're going to model that. If we want this thing, we're going to model exactly that thing. Okay, and break these things all down into shapes. This guy here is a band, and then a bunch of just other bands that are just bent. So that's the one we're going to go with, because I like that. I like that style. Style like this is basically what that is. Something like this, you have to kind of reach your hand into, and you know you might get germs on yourself. So this is what I think is kind of cool. So let's go into this, and I'm just going to duplicate this guy. Use this as my rough model. I'm just scaling this piece down. There you go. There's one band. Duplicate it. There's another band. Okay, this one's going to be tapered. So I can hide or delete that now. There we go. Something like that. I don't need these middle parts, so let me just delete them. Okay, because I just want the band. That's all I need is just that band right there. Okay, then I'm going to go with my Create Polygon Plane tool. Not tool, but just plane. Yeah, let's scale this down. Let's get rid of our divisions. And let me just make sure in the top view that I'm at a good side. Alright, that looks like a good side. I wouldn't want to be like over here with this. That side looks like it's kind of lined up, so that's what I want to do. So now these bands are on the inside of that, so I'm just going to make sure I keep these kind of tucked on the inside. That. If I took this and smoothed it out, which I'm going to do, I just need to make sure that's still on the inside of it. Alright, now this guy here, he's on the inside, yes. He should be coming up and then kind of arching outward. So an extrude, move it up, and pull it over. Then I'm going to take this edge and just do a bevel on it. And then I can add as many offsets as I need, as many segments as I need to get the rounding that I want. Okay. So then I can just say, okay, it's probably too much movement here. Let's pull this back. Actually, let me move that a little bit more. Pull. This edge really far out like that. That up. Like about there. Alright, so now I got that edge. Let's go to bevel again. There we go. So now I can grab these and just kind of nudge these back into position. I can delete this extra face that the bevel is going to create. There we go. And I can still adjust this if I needed to. Just grab these, pull it in a little bit, down a little bit, whatever. Okay, I'm going to delete the history on this. I'm going to extrude it, just to give me some thickness. What? Back to object mode. Then extrude. I try to extrude the vertices. There we go. Okay, and then I want to duplicate this around here. So with this, if I go into wireframe, I can't duplicate it and then move it over and rotate it and then position it because I shift D it, and you see it's never going to really line up perfectly. So what I can do is to click this, and if I go to wireframe, I take these and put them to 1, I can see roughly the middle points about here. So if I take this and I hold down D, hold down V, and I snap my pivot here, you can see how it kind of snaps that way to this one. That's what I need. So now, duplicate, rotate it around. It has to be some sort of increment of 360. So if I go to 15, 15 will evenly divide into 360. And that makes kind of sense how close those are. Maybe 10. That would work too. So let's go at 10. So then I just Shift D all the way around. And we line up perfectly. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to take these two guys, and I'm going to fit them a little bit better, and then I'm going to extrude them. So this guy here on the bottom, or on the top, I'm just going to scale him down a touch. I'm going to grab his bottom, scale that in. I'm going to extrude this. There we go. I think this one's probably going to fit good, just extruding it. There we go. Okay. And then if you look at this, there is like a can and some other stuff in here. So let's actually build a cylinder. And I'll shift click on one of these bands, do our modify snap align objects, midpoints, X, Y, and Z. There's our cylinder. Let's get rid of the caps. We don't need the caps on there. There we go. Whoa. Okay, I'm going to take this and extrude it. Take the offset. 0.1 actually looks almost there. 0.12. There we go. Extrude again. Come up. Extrude again. Extrude again. Come down. And delete. Okay, so there's my opening. And then I can just go in my insert edge loop. Drop a couple edge loops in here. Grab these faces. And extrude. Pull those up. And then bevels. Bevels for everyone. Come on. Go. And I'm just going to delete this bottom face right there. We don't need it. Okay, it's a little bit misproportioned, so here's a quick way to kind of fix that. Here's my trash can pieces. Let me pull this down together. Here's all my trash can parts. I'm going to group them. I'm going to call this trash can. Then I can go to Create Deformers, Lattice, and this puts this box around here. So I'm going to take my T divisions to 2, go to Lattice Point, and I can just grab these and just hold this up. You can see how everything's going with it. And I can grab the bottom ones and I can scale these in, and everything goes with it. And if I had more divisions in here, like if I had 3 divisions, I could even grab these middle ones and scale these in. Okay, I'm probably not going to get the desired results just because I don't think I even have enough divisions in here. I also missed a guy. So let me undo my lattice. There he is. Drop him in trash can with the middle mouse. Then go to Create Deformers, Lattice. And if I go to wireframe, you can see there's no divisions like vertically on these guys. That's why I can't do anything really in the middle. There we go. Okay, once I'm happy with that, I grab the trash can, delete the history. Lattice goes away, I keep my shape. Everyone's happy. Let's put our pivot on here. Let's go to center pivot, hold down D and V and grab that green arrow and move it down to there. There we go. And move that in line. Scale it up. That's cool. Maybe we'll just scoot this down a little bit. Scoot another one back here. And we'll duplicate this and scoot it over here. It was a clean city. Time for rubbish. Okay, so there's just a couple things that you can do for that. I'm going to go through a couple other things that that may help you kind of model some things. I'm going to just go to a different file. So I'm going to start off with this cylinder here. Ideally, it's up to you to break down your shapes. Okay, you're going to have to go through and figure out how do I need to make these shapes and how do I get these shapes out of what stuff we have in Maya. I'm adding some subdivisions in the height of the cylinder. Okay, I'm going to go to the animation menu up here. I'm going to go to create deformers, and under nonlinear we have a couple deformers we can use. Here's bend. So I click on bend. It creates this rod in the center of our stuff where I can go to the bend, go to curvature, and middle mouse button drag. And you can see how it's bending this in this arch. I can take my low bound to 0 and it only bends one thing. So if I had a street sign that I want to have this nice little bend to, I could do that. Okay, I can move this thing, I can rotate the thing and get different results. I can scale it and get different results. Okay, so you can play with this to get different results. I just delete it and it's gone. I can go to flare, and there's a start flare and there's end flares. I go to start flare and I'll get this cone shape. Then I can go to curve, and you can see how I can adjust it and get this kind of funky shape. I can play with the low bounds here still, and the high bounds. I can play with the scale. I can play with the movement. Okay. If I do see something I like in any of these, all I have to do is delete the history, or I can just duplicate that shape and move it off. And I still have the one I can adjust. Alright, so I just duplicate it, it's gone. Or I delete it, it's gone. Or duplicate it. There's a sine wave, not really helpful in this case. But, we can create stuff like this. With more divisions on there, we can really get something funky. There's squash, which is actually just kind of scales it and stretches it. This one's more of an animation tool, not really a modeling tool, but you obviously could use this for some sort of modeling. There's twist, which we're not going to really see anything here until I take my twist and I start moving it kind of off kilter. Okay, and then you see how we're getting this twisting going around this. Okay. The end angle, and whatever else. Low bounds are still on there. High bounds are still on there. And then there's wave, which is similar to sine. Okay, it has an amplitude, which is the height. It has a wavelength, which is how long that wave is. It has an offset. It has a drop off. The drop off position. It has radiuses. Okay, so it's got some extra stuff that we can play with. And like I said, all these are dependent upon how many divisions we have. If I go to the height, I just pump in like 100 divisions in the height. And I go back to wave. Now it lines up perfectly. I go to amplitude. You can see how much smoother this is now compared to what it was a minute ago. Okay, just because I have a lot more divisions happening in this. Okay, even like 0.4, I'm getting a lot of deformation here. I wouldn't be able to get that with few divisions. Some other stuff that may help too is if I go to create curve tool, CV curve tool, I go to my front view, and I'm just drawing a shape like that. Create NURBS circle. I'm going to just hold down C and just middle snap this here. Okay, so now I basically have a curve here, a curve there. I'm going to scale that guy down, hold down, click this, shift click that, Then go to Surfaces, Extrude, option box, Tube, At Path Component, Polygons, Quads, General, per span, Extrude. And you can see how this circle has been extruded along that path. And we can scale it up and get it thicker or thinner. I can go to my original curve, which is here, hit F8, grab the points, and move it around. Okay, that's extrude. I could also take this curve and I can go to surfaces and go to, oops, let me duplicate it. So I got both of these selected. Go to surfaces loft. I can loft them together. Not really handy with 2, but if I have 3 of these, surfaces loft. Now you see how I can create that kind of shape here. Go back to the front view, back to my CV curve tool. Beautiful. I'm going to put my pivot down here at the bottom. So DC, middle drag. I'm going to go to surfaces revolve. Oops. Back, surfaces revolve. Y direction, cubic, polygons, quads, general, per span 3, and there it is. Okay, so now we have a polygon cylinder revolved. Okay, I'm going through these kind of quick because a lot of those are kind of like a review of the first class. There's a couple other ones that are in here that you could use. There's also a create text tool. So I'm going to go to bevel, leave us at Maya, create. There you go, and now I have text. Okay, and I can play with these settings inside here under bevel plus and adjust the width, adjust the depth, adjust the extrude distance, play with some of these different profiles here and get different results. Okay, I can even re-choose the font if I go back to where my font is. Right here, text for bevel, click that. Here's the font. Pick a different font. Let's pick a different font. There we go. Okay, oops. And I can retype the font too. I don't know where Maya doesn't seem to like it. Maybe it doesn't like capital letters. Nope. She doesn't like the word Maya. So the F seems to come in with this font, so the F will work. It's a Facebook F. Okay, so there's lots of different things you can do. Your mission is to try to figure out in your scene, how do I build these certain kinds of things? Demolition, destruction, I kind of showed the building being destroyed. I could also grab a cube and go to effects and say shatter, create shatter. There's 3 different kinds, surface, solid, or crack, depending on what you want. So solid shatter, come on. Let's try deleting the history. Sometimes these just don't work. It's just, there it goes. Deleting the history seemed to work. So I'll move this aside. Now I did 5 pieces because it takes a long time otherwise. But now you see this is actually like broken up into 5 separate pieces that I could kind of reassemble and do whatever I need to. Okay, so that was just the surface shatter, effects, create shatter. That was a solid shatter, sorry. Surface shatter is basically the same thing, except we get paper thin pieces. Come on. Alright, I think it wants me to go to mesh, separate. Nope, it doesn't like it. These tools are the same that they've always been since the million years I've been working in Maya. So, yeah, it doesn't want to do anything with that one. The crack shatter is kind of a neat one. You pick a point like this and you say create, and what it does, it goes out and splits it from that point. Okay, ideally it's supposed to be like, you know, if you had a bullet hitting the center of the glass, it could kind of break things up. All right, so those are kind of like the built-in ones. You could also go to Edit Mesh and go to the Cut Faces tool. And if you know you don't want it to be like a solid shape, you could have it say Extract Out Faces. I could just say 0.05, 0.05. All right, so I'm going to do interactive, and I'm just going to enter the tool. And I'm going to cut it, and you see how it breaks it off. So I'm just cutting this, breaking it apart into a bunch of pieces. There we go. Then I can go to Mesh, Separate. All the pieces are now separated, so I could then just grab some of these, or grab all of them and extrude them. And there it is. Grab the blue and just pull it in a little bit. And now they all have thickness. And now I can do whatever I need to. If I'm laying these on the sidewalk, I can lay them on the sidewalk and do whatever I need to add them to my scene. Okay. When you're doing your modeling, some tips is just try to keep your poly count low. You know, if you have a cube and all you need is a cube, there's no reason that that cube has to have this many divisions in it. It's not going to help the model look any more realistic having that many divisions. Okay. Having a cube with this many divisions is just as effective as that many divisions if that's all you're doing is that. Okay. If you're doing something like a plank and you want to add some shape to it, then go ahead, add divisions, add some shape to it. There we go. So now that has some shape to it. It's not just a plain shape. Even this direction I can go and add some. But each one of these points kind of has a reason for being in this thing. It's not just, you know, because I'm trying to add a bunch of divisions to make it look good. It's not going to get you a good grade, and it's not going to help you become a better modeler by just adding a bunch of divisions. One thing that I think really helps me is if I'm trying to model something, 3D model of a cat, whatever, is that people will post, here's their model of a cat, here's the divisions that they have on here, and it kind of gives you an idea of where to put divisions, okay, or where to start and where things are at, and you can see where there's high divisions and where there's low divisions. There's not a whole lot of divisions in the center, but definitely around the paws, around the nose, there's a whole lot. Around the eyes, there's a lot. 3D model of a trash can. Here's a trash can right here. You can see the resolution that this one has and how low the amount of divisions is on here. This is what you want to have, is low divisions, but have a lot of cool stuff on there. You don't need to model it all out of one piece. This isn't modeled all out of one piece. This is a bunch of separate pieces put together. Okay. Here's another one, maybe even the same one. All right, actually it probably has a lot more divisions, yeah. So here, look at that, many divisions, and this many divisions. They both look pretty much the same kind of trash can. Sometimes you have to type in wire up here too, or wireframe, and then you'll get the wireframe model of what that's supposed to look like. Here's a basic trash can like that. Try to add randomness to your scene whenever you can. Garbage on the street or cups or whatever. Here's a bench. That's kind of a cool bench. Throw in your scene. Here's a trash bag right next to this. Real quick, I can show. I created a sphere. I can go to Mesh, Sculpt Geometry Tool option box. And I can use these, which is push, pull, smooth. So let me use push. I'm going to hold B. Okay, if I just click on B, it doesn't always do it. There's a double arrow in the middle. I'm just going to move my mouse a little bit, then click and drag with the left mouse. Hold on M, left click and drag, and then just, oops, too far. And you can see what I'm doing here is I'm kind of pushing these vertices in some. So if I wanted to create a trash bag, I can very quickly create a trash bag just by creating something with not a million divisions in it, but something that's a little bit higher resolution. Okay, I'm going to switch to pull. Hold down my brush. Okay, and then I can switch back to my move tool and just finish the rest of this manually. add some divisions in here. There we go. So I've pretty quickly created just a trash bag just by sculpting a sphere. Okay. So you can create a trash bag. Look how many divisions he has on that. That's like a crazy amount of divisions, but whatever. It's not going to get you any extra points having crazy amounts of divisions on your stuff. Alright. Creating little pieces of paper, same thing. I can create a plane. Going with a sculpt tool. Oops. Go with the sculpt tool. A little right there, scaling it, rotating it. A little more sculpting. Maybe some manual adjustment. There we go. So now I have a piece of trash next to the trash bag. And how easy was that to do? I could create a dozen or so of these little pieces of paper next to the trash bag to give my scene just a little bit more modeling, just a little bit more finesse, right? Okay, so get your reference images. You should already have a bunch of them already, but get more if you need them. And then just start breaking your models down. So there'll be more modeling videos, more detail videos, but not a whole lot of them. This assignment's going to move quick, and we got to just keep moving along with it. Okay, so probably by next week you should have all your modeling done, and then we'll move on to the texturing and lighting and whatnot.